Hello there. Well, I'm still small, that's what she said. No, don't be silly buggers. And I've just finished uploading a video on the Knights Templar, so if you like history stuff, go check that out. But in this video, I've found a new channel to react to add on to our catalogue, as it were. Oh, excuse me a second. Oh dear, right. And it's Chilling Scares, it's called. 6 most disturbing abandoned building encounters. Is it caught on camera? Caught on camera, yes indeed do. Okay, so any can happen. As we know, abandoned buildings can have shadow bastards or just dodgy geezers and all that jazz. So let's go see how, because this is, like I said, this is a new channel that I just found. So it's not all about abandoned buildings, it's just about various stuff. But yeah, I thought I'd check this one out. So let's pick one at random, going, oh, that looks interesting. I'll pick that one. So yeah, as with always, any channel that I react to, the link to their channel is in the description below. So if you could go over, share the love and all that jazz. Let's go.
Christopher Brian Hill is an urban explorer with a YouTube channel called Urbex Hill. Over the past 10 years, he's been uploading raw footage of his visits to some of the creepiest abandoned buildings in the country, often running into unexpected and sometimes life-threatening situations. Urban explorers like Chris face many dangers, from aggressive stray dogs to hostile squatters to respiratory risks and unsound structures. Venturing into an unfamiliar abandoned building is much more risky than it might sound. It's obviously much safer to explore abandoned buildings in the light of day and with a group of friends, but in most of his videos, Chris explores at night and always alone. In June 2022, he visited the abandoned Westinghouse Electric
He's got big kahunas.
factory located in Cleveland, Ohio. Built more than a century ago, the factory originally consisted of 7 different buildings, but most of them have been demolished by now. Even though the Westinghouse Company was established in 1886, it didn't reach Cleveland until 1894. Founded by Thomas Edison, Westinghouse is best known for the notable engineers who worked for the company, including Nikola Tesla and William Stanley. For several decades, the Westinghouse Company rivaled General Electric, and it was last used as a lighting equipment production plant before its abandonment.
Sorry, I'll rewind it a bit. Right, so that's one of the things I don't get is it's one of the big shames and crimes of today's world. It's only because they can't make money out of it, if you get my drift. And that is why we haven't used Tesla's technology. There's nothing wrong with his technology at all. I'll let you into a little secret. And well, it's not really a secret. Anyone who's Nikola Tesla in history knows full well what truth is. But I mean, I'm just using the expression loosely. But the Tesla coil, all that sort of technology, using power from the earth, is a perfectly exceptional, outstanding idea. There's no problems with it. His failed tower, there's a lot of rumour, and I'm not surprised at all. There's because it worked before when he did it himself. It didn't. It blew up, or something bad happened, and they said, "Oh, it was a failed experiment." No, someone sabotaged it. They didn't want him to succeed. Also, I mean, I do love Neil deGrasse Tyson and various other scientists, but they have said some stupid things about Tesla's idea. For example, they're like, "Oh, if there's these electrical waves that we're picking up or using to power light bulbs and stuff, then what's happening to that energy? Where is it travelling through? And what damage would that do to you?" It doesn't work like that. It's not going to do damage to you. Well, the damage is basically no different from radio waves, Wi-Fi. If you look at the EMF readings on a Wi-Fi system or a phone, especially during a phone call, it goes into the red. So it's kind of like, I don't know how I can I know it's like calling a white kettle black. You know what I mean? It's like you can't be worried about that when you're using Wi-Fi and mobile phones and that kind of stuff, because that's a guaranteed harmful wave that's you're picking up or that's hitting you, etc. But the thing is, this is, they're saying it's electricity and it will harm you. Well, not really. It's the irony is Tesla wouldn't suggest it if it did harm you, and plus he did multiple demonstrations where he stood there holding a light bulb, and this light bulb wasn't plugged into any electricity or anything like that. It was just a light bulb in his hand, with obviously it had probably it had a filament or something that picked up the electricity from the earth, but it just glowed like magic in his hand. He didn't get electrocuted, no harm happened to him. So it's the whole idea that it's dangerous is bullshit. I reckon if you stood near the tower, then and you probably would something bad happen to you, because it's like bolts of static and electricity and all that sort of stuff. But you're not going to. It's like I'm not going to. It's like a nuclear reactor. I'm not going to stand right inside the core, am I, and sit on a nuclear rod. Oh, excuse me, madam. I got a glowing ring. You know what I mean? It's a bit of common sense. But in general, like say if you had a car that had a the same thing that light bulb I had but bigger, you're not going to get electrocuted. It's like you know what I mean. So the irony is, based on what I'm trying to say, I can waffle on, is if you want to save the planet, if you want the most green, most environmentally effective thing on the planet, then Tesla's technology, the coil idea is using electricity, valid idea. There's a silly concern that you might run out of electricity or you might drain the earth. You can't drain the earth. I mean, even like bolt of lightning, the amount of and don't forget that energy is coming from the earth. The amount of energy expelled in a lightning storm is ludicrous. I doubt you're going to run out of energy. It would happen, considering that the Earth itself is a couple or so billions of years old. It would have happened years ago. We would have noticed it. But it's silly. You're not going to run out of electricity. The Earth's not going to run out of electricity. Natural electricity. I've got a suggestion. Don't go dock me. So you know what I mean. So, but this whole idea that we might get electric shock. Tesla wasn't getting electrocuted when he was holding that bulb in his hand. He invited people to pick up the bulbs out the ground, because he had them implanted in the ground. And they picked them up, and they're literally glowing in your hand. You can walk around like a torch. It's mental. So yeah, but it's one of the tragedies of history, and that is we haven't used this technology, and it's because you can't charge people. You still, what gets you laugh is limitless free energy. We can still charge people for it, but not in a sense that we would normally charge for it. You could charge people monthly membership or contract like you do in mobile phone, but that's to cover the cost of maintenance, because things get damaged and break down. So you pay like a membership or a subscription for this energy, but you're not really paying for the energy per se. You're paying, it's like insurance cover in case it gets broken down. Then engineers, right. But yeah, that's one of the tragedies. Is if you want to save the planet, Tesla's got the answer. If you want to save the environment, and you're too scared and ignorant, due to ignorance, and you're too scared to use nuclear power stations, even though they're the most green technology on the planet, Tesla's the only other way you can go, or various other technologies. Depends what the thing is with Teslas. The tower will blow up, nothing will happen. But there's other ones like using water. Getting hydrogen for water, it's still found good, but if that goes up, it's like a bomb, and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I digress. But yeah, that's one of the tragedies is with that.
Known for the notable engineers who worked for the company, including Nikola Tesla and William Stanley. For several decades, the Westinghouse company rivaled General Electric, and it was last used as a lighting equipment production plant before its abandonment in 1979. For the past 4.5 decades, the abandoned factory has been one of the hottest urban exploration locations for curious explorers and YouTubers. In 2012, the factory started receiving even more attention after the Black Widow interrogation scene from the first movie of the Avengers was shot there. 10 years later, Chris made the trip to the abandoned factory and recorded everything he saw. As Chris begins exploring, there doesn't seem to be anyone around, and only the sound of crickets can be heard in the darkness as he walks around the outside of the building. Disturbingly, the sound of gunshots can be heard in the distance less than 5 minutes into the recording. It's worth mentioning that for the past few years, Cleveland has been ranked as one of the top 10 most dangerous cities in the US, making this visit to the abandoned factory even more risky.
Wow.
Hear somebody shooting.
That's the other thing, they're sort of brave as well. Mind you, they probably are not saying they did, not saying they didn't, but they might have filmed that Avengers scene during the day, I don't know, but or just had, I don't know. They usually call it off, don't they, doing indie films? But you know what I mean, but on a normal day, as it were, it's like, if that's one of the dangerous places, etc., then it's, you know, people could be using that to squat in, or using it to den, or to hide. People having gunfights would be like, could you be using it to hide? You know what I mean?
That's Cleveland. Wow. That's crazy.
I went wow as well. I went wow. 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 It's crazy.
It's not even that far away from here.
That's Christopher Walken, sir.
Oh, that sounds like a shootout.
Chris has experience exploring everything from abandoned mental hospitals and sanatoriums to vacant occult temples, and he shrugs off the fear as he enters the creepy building. Just like in many abandoned buildings, Chris finds a mattress on the floor, meaning at least one person has been sleeping there recently. As he captures footage of the first floor and walks up the stairs to the second floor, all that can be heard in the eerie darkness is the sound of his footsteps. A few minutes later, Chris goes down to the basement, and the footage becomes increasingly creepier as Chris runs into a series of dead ends under the leaky, moldy ceiling.
Okay, I'm hearing something.
That's what I kind of also don't get, is it's really ironic and odd, isn't it, in a way, I suppose. I don't know. I'm sure they've got valid reasons for it, but usually the general attitude is, if it's like occult temples, I think what they're talking about is the Freemason lodges and stuff like that. Usually a place like that is sacred. You know what I mean? It's like, even with secret societies, they usually treat their buildings sacred like you would a church. But mind you, they've got abandoned churches in America as well, haven't they? So it's odd, don't it? You'd think they'd be treated with a lot more respect and, oh God, what's the word? Reverence. You know what I mean? Odd, isn't it? So you think, you know, you'd think someone or somewhere would take better care of these things, but hey ho.
Maybe it's an animal. There's animals down here.
Pigeons.
At several points during his exploration of the basement, he can be heard making comments about a strange noise coming from somewhere on that floor, and at first he seems to think it's an animal.
It's a pigeon.
Alarmingly, he finds a few shell casings on the ground from what was probably a 9mm handgun.
Bloody hell.
Although it would be pretty unsettling to find something like this lying on the ground in an abandoned factory basement, it's worth mentioning that police departments often use abandoned buildings and complexes for training exercises.
True, very true.
However, in this case, it's impossible to know if that's really what happened. Shortly after, he comes across a series of disturbing messages on the walls. He continues recording as he walks down narrow corridors, and this is where
That's freaky. He's in this home.
things get a lot more disturbing.
This place is so wet.
That's what she said.
Oh, you scared the out of me. Yo. You need some help, bro?
Fuck.
Yo.
If they don't acknowledge you, I don't know. Again, it's like another video I reacted to. It wasn't. It was. It's one of those things, isn't it? Mind you saying that, people leave. You know when you see like, I don't know, see something that looks like a grudge bitch, by the side of the road, and they drive past it going, oh, you never stop to think it could be a woman who actually needs help. You know what I mean? Needs to go to the hospital. So it's odd that in those situations we shit a brick and run. But this situation, it's like, I'm thinking it's hard to say in it because he could be dodgy geezer or a dodgy, someone's up to no good. But at the same time, he could be someone who needs genuine help, and he's stuck within that conundrum, aren't you?
He's not even responding. I'm gonna leave him alone. Get the fuck out
Don't turn your back on him, mate. Don't turn your back.
Bro, that's crazy.
After about 20 minutes of exploring, the visit takes a very dark turn as Chris runs into a hunched-over man without a light at the far end of the room. He calls out to him and asks if he needs any help, but the man doesn't move or respond, and Chris decides to leave him alone. Understandably, Chris's breathing can be heard getting louder and heavier after the extremely unsettling encounter, but things were only about to get more disturbing for him.
Didn't look like he's breathing, huh?
I'm gonna help that dude out. I'm gonna get this dude a $20 bill. Yo. Hey, I got some money for you.
Why go back? For fuck's sake. He could be off his tits on drugs or
He's
something.
not there, and he's not responding.
About 4 minutes later, Chris decides to go back to help the man out by giving him a $20 bill. But alarmingly, when he goes back to the room, the man is no longer there. This could be incredibly dangerous, as squatters are known to behave aggressively toward unwanted visitors. And because they know the place better than anyone else, they can easily hide in the shadows and attack or scare visitors when they least expect it. One theory that many viewers seemed to favor was that maybe the man was not a homeless person at all, but a gang member who was hiding from the shootout that could be heard at the beginning of the video. However, it's impossible to confirm if this was actually the case, and it seems pretty unlikely given his strange behavior.
Thing is, though, that was dodgy as well. I mean, even though I'm not in the police force and all that sort of thing, but when they do training programs, it's like they say in it, always check all your corners, right? The fact he goes, fuck this, and walks off. So I wouldn't turn my back to that guy. You know what I mean? I'd be like, always looking around. You know what I mean? I know sometimes people say, I'll probably be too scared to look back. But still, to cover your own basis, you wouldn't just go, fuck this, and walk off slowly with your back turned to a weirdo, some stranger.
As he continues searching for the man, Chris notices bats flying around the basement, and things get even more eerie at this point.
There's a lot of bats down here, too.
Right when he walks into one of the rooms, if you look closely at the far left of the screen, you can actually see the man from earlier standing in what used to be a door frame, staring at Chris in the darkness. Alarmingly, Chris doesn't notice and continues walking. It's impossible to know how long the man had been following him, and in these kind of situations, it can be hard to gauge the squatter's intentions. A few minutes later, the squatter can be seen walking outside as cars pass by the side of the building. At one point, Chris mentions he thinks the guy said hello, but it can't be heard clearly through the camera audio. Just when he decides to head out, he hears a cell phone vibrate, indicating that there are more people down there with him hiding in the darkness. Having had enough disturbing encounters for the night, he decides to play it safe, and fortunately he was able to leave the building unharmed.
Yeah, get the fuck out of there.
He never found out who that man was, and since then he hasn't uploaded another video of the Westinghouse factory.
Yeah, to be fair, like, if that guy's walked onto the main road, then yeah, like, most likely he's hiding in the corner, and obviously, if he's hiding from someone, he's not going to suddenly trust someone who goes, hello bro, and all that sort of stuff, you know what I mean? So he's probably in the corner thinking, fucking don't shoot me, or something, you know what I mean? But it's creepy that he was watching him and stuff. Mind you, it could be he's checking him out, seeing he's not one of the guys he's hiding from. But you know what I mean? Yeah, bizarre, freaky.
This video was recorded in Tartu, Estonia, and uploaded to YouTube in August of 2016. In it, a group of 4 teenagers visit an abandoned sauna that was built more than a century ago in 1915, back when Estonia was still part of the Russian Empire. After fulfilling its purpose for 80 years, the sauna was decommissioned in 1995. The building remained abandoned for 23 years until in 2018 it was fully renovated and turned into a beauty salon, which is still operating as of this video's upload in 2023. In August of 2016, the uploader visited the abandoned location with 3 friends. Upon entering the building, you can see that it looks exactly what you would expect a building that's been abandoned for 21 years to look like. There's an insane amount of mold growing freely on the walls, the heaters are covered in a thick layer of rust, the floor is full of holes, and the entire structure looks like it could collapse at any second.
So if I heard him correctly, they uploaded it in 2023, but recorded prior to them renovating it, which is kind of cool. I like it when they reuse old buildings. Some buildings I think it's a shame to waste. I mean,
throughout the video, the teenage explorers also run into some disturbing messages on the walls. An especially eerie one reads, "You can't hide," and there are also several creepy drawings of stick figures graffitied on the walls in some of the other rooms. For the first few minutes of the visit, other than the disturbing messages and some loose shoes and other personal belongings, there doesn't seem to be any indication that somebody could be living there or had even visited the location recently. However, about 20 minutes into the visit, one of the teenagers finds a door frame covered by a curtain, and they decide to explore the room. As one of the explorers shines a flashlight into the room, a gut-wrenching scream can be heard coming from the shadows. Immediately, the four teenagers run out of the building in a panic. When they finally step outside, the sun has already set, and the boys get into the car to flee from the location. Although the explorer was too busy running to show footage of the screaming man, it's more than likely that it was a homeless resident of the abandoned building who wasn't expecting visitors. Still, it must have been extremely disturbing to experience something like that, even if they went together as a group. After that day in 2016, the boys never went back to the abandoned sauna again.
See, that's the thing, you see. I mean, I can't remember which... Is it Franco? I can't remember which TV... I can't remember which channel it was, but there's one especially where they were in the woods. And it sounded like it was really dodgy people there, or people were acting dodgy because they'd liked stuff, but they were acting really dodgy-like. And that's the thing with these things, isn't it? As people were just, you know... We worry about freaky-deaky, ghosty-wosty stuff, but it's kind of like humans are a lot more dangerous, or potentially more dangerous, or can be potentially dangerous, and that's the worst thing, isn't it? It's like encountering some weirdo bastard who wants to kill you.
In March of 2022, YouTubers Meg and Chris uploaded a new video to their channel, Back in Time MC, in which they showed footage of their visit to a run-down old farmhouse somewhere in the UK. In the caption, they mentioned that they found an entry point through an open window around the side of the house.
Warren, look aside, that looks like a nice house.
Based on the state of disarray the farmhouse is in, it's clear that nobody has been maintaining it for quite some time. The floor is covered in leaves and cobwebs, the shoes look dusty and unused, and there are even a couple of dead animals lying on the floor, along with some shotgun shells lying on top of a bedside table. The only clues that indicate somebody could have been at the location relatively recently are that one of the light bulbs in one of the bedrooms looks relatively new, and some of the clothes in the closet look only gently used. Based on the pictures that Chris finds on different shelves and hung up on the walls, it appears as if a family of at least 4 children used to live in the farmhouse. As the couple continues with the exploration, they walk into one of the upstairs bedrooms, where they find something very unexpected.
There's a zimmer frame there, so maybe it just does it to a point. Because, you'd be surprised if you leave the house for quite some time, you'd be surprised how quickly cobwebs and stuff go about. But yeah, so... obviously, it could be squatters as well. The squatters, sorry. Have used the building, hence the clothes and stuff. But yeah, but there's a Zimmer frame there, so it could be that up to a point. Person lived there, died, etc. Whatever.
Nice thin, narrow piece of carpet that comes all the way across. Absolutely nuts. Maybe we'll come into this bedroom here. And wow. Oh my god. Hello. You're alive.
What?
Man,
you can't live in here. Yeah?
No.
We can't.
We thought it was abandoned.
You can't live in here.
When he first walked into the room, Chris didn't notice that there was someone asleep in the bed. It wasn't until Meg walked in and made a noise that the woman sleeping in the bed woke up and gave them the scare of their life. Although the uploaders blurred the woman's face out of respect for her privacy, it's clear that she's pretty old. During the conversation, she tells the couple that she doesn't have any family that could take her to live somewhere else less depressing. Out of sheer kindness, Chris and Meg keep the lady company and try their best to understand her situation. She introduces herself as Jane, and over the next 10 minutes they ask her questions about how she ended up living all alone in an abandoned farmhouse. Thanks to the couple's empathy, the initial shock of being startled by the sleeping old lady and seeing her living in such terrible conditions quickly turns into a heartwarming moment in which the three of them talk about each other's lives.
What happened was, I came here to help somebody.
Okay.
And this is only for a week I'm coming.
Yeah.
And that was 1993.
Oh God.
Wow, so you've been here nearly 30 years.
Yeah.
Disturbingly, Jane mentioned she's been living in the abandoned farmhouse for 30 years, and even though Chris and Meg offer to help her, bring her food, and buy her clean clothes and sheets, she seems hesitant to accept anything from them, claiming that she's fine living the way she does. She mentions that even though it's not her house, the men who work at the farmhouse know she's there, and they bring her food and water every day. In a touching moment at the end, the couple agrees with Jane to visit her again soon. This would have been a happy ending to the story, but Chris and Meg included a caption at the end of the video that cast the situation in a more disturbing light. The caption reads, "I did a lot of research to try and find the name of the farm and whom it was owned by. Luckily, I got the information needed, and I even got a message from someone who knew the farmer who farms there." Chris goes on to explain that the man who reached out to him also knew that Jane was living there, and that the farmer also lives in the farmhouse with her. According to the man, Jane is very well cared for, but she chooses to live in those terrible conditions anyway. The man also mentioned that Jane's husband is up there constantly to make sure she's okay, but she doesn't accept his help very easily, or anyone's help for that matter. It's worth mentioning that Jane might not have been completely truthful about her situation to Chris and Meg. During their conversation, she mentioned that she didn't have anyone to care for her except for the farmer, but the man who knew the farmer told Chris that she also has a brother who tries to take care of her. Not entirely convinced by what the man told him, Chris continued digging for information and found that the farm was not on any land registry records, but there was another property to Jane's name that she owned between 1986 and 2015. After visiting the other property, Chris mentioned that it was as unkempt and beat up as the farmhouse itself. Having heard two different versions of the story from the man who contacted him and from Jane herself, he decided to contact Adult Social Services. This is the email he received from them. "Good morning, thank you for your email. I can confirm that Adult Social Care are aware of this lady, however, I'm not able to provide you with any further details. We appreciate your input and the information you have provided, and thank you for raising your concerns with us." Chris then told the man who contacted him to tell Jane that he and Meg would be happy to go back and visit her if she wanted them to. After this, there were no further updates on the old woman, and we'll likely never know what became of her. The only thing we know for sure is that if someone else decides to explore the abandoned farmhouse in the future, they'll likely run into the same situation as Chris and Meg. Sadly, this type of situation is much more common than many people realize. With rising prices and the overall state of the global economy, a large part of the elderly population is being forgotten. Hopefully, Jane can accept some help from her family members and live out the rest of her days in much better and healthier conditions than the one she was in when the video was uploaded.
It's sad, but at the same time, isn't that incredible how something like that became not an adventure, but you know what I mean? Isn't that incredible? I hope they did, because I mean, even though the history, it doesn't mean she's up to anything no good. It's just that just because there's discrepancies. But man, isn't that? Yeah, it's sad. It's sad, isn't it? But it's also, like it says, heartwarming, and it's incredible, isn't it? It's just like that's just impressive, isn't it? It kind of reminds me of it was on TV recently, Home Alone 2, where he makes friends with that woman with the pigeons. It's kind of like that, isn't it? Except instead of a park, it's an abandoned house. Fascinating, isn't it? Sad, but incredible story, that. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to put into words, but you know what I mean?
Robert Fulton Elementary is an abandoned school in a pretty rough neighborhood of Cleveland, Ohio. The building is 92 years old and has been abandoned for over 13 years. After several complaints from nearby residents who mentioned that the abandoned building was an eyesore, a potential crime hotspot, and that it was lowering the value of their properties, the mayor of Cleveland announced plans to turn the rundown old building into a high-quality, mixed-income housing unit for the community. Although the idea is still in the planning stages and the city needs more funding to complete the project, the plan is for the renovations to begin by the end of 2024. For now, Robert Fulton Elementary remains one of the creepiest abandoned schools in the country. In May of 2023, Chris Hill, again from the YouTube channel Urbex Hill, uploaded a video in which he made a second visit to the boarded-up, abandoned elementary school. The first video he made of the school was back in 2022. During his first visit, he heard strange humming, chanting, creaking, and banging noises coming from different rooms. This was part of the description in the first video. Most sections of the building are falling apart, and the water and elements have done irreversible damage to the structure. I would not recommend anyone explore this school. You risk getting robbed or worse. With that being said, I heard weird noises and other various things during my exploration. After these incidents, the vast majority of people would have been too terrified to even think of going back. But 2 years later, Chris decided to make a second visit to the school, alone at 1 a.m.
The thing is also, I mean, I don't know, could you make it to a hotel or a block of flats, or, you know what I mean? Or why not make it back into a school? I don't know. But I suppose, yeah, I suppose could. It'd take. Well, I think it's a case of, it's not impossible, but it's probably like you have to fit in like plumbing and stuff. Because if you could take, say, a massive, like, or 2 or 3 classrooms and convert it into a flat, you got then to install pipes, all kinds of stuff. But who knows? But yeah, I mean, or make it into a school or a library or some thing. You know, you could reuse it. I like it when they. You know, what I mean, some converted churches that have been made into homes in England, and they've kept the church look to it, like the stained glass windows. And I like it when they renovate buildings. You know what I mean? I think they should keep a lot of the flavour or the aesthetics there, if that makes sense.
Wow. The decay is crazy in here.
From the very beginning of the footage, it's clear that Robert Fulton Elementary belongs in a different category of abandoned buildings than most others. What stands out the most about the building is the fact that just over a decade ago, children were learning in those classrooms, running and playing in the halls, and now it looks more like something out of a horror movie than a school.
Or depending, like, because you mentioned decay, I don't know, if the walls are still usable, you might still need to gut it, as it were, and rebuild the floorboards or replace the flooring. Or worst case scenario, you might have to just level the whole thing down. I don't know. Because obviously you wouldn't really want to convert it into something with rotted floors and stuff. You know what I mean? It'd be a bit risky.
The eeriness of the location, the pitch darkness, and the extreme state of decay of the building all contribute to the school's incredibly creepy atmosphere, and not a lot of people would dare go in there at night, much less alone. For a building that has only been abandoned for 13 years, Robert Fulton Elementary is in a much worse state than other buildings that have been vacant for much longer. But Chris doesn't seem to mind as he captures footage of the dark corridors with peeling walls and random debris lying all over the floor. As he ventures deeper into the school, Chris starts hearing strange noises, but nobody seems to be around, and he continues his exploration in the chilling silence. The underlying structure in some of the rooms on the upper floors seems extremely unstable, but Chris shows his expertise in urban exploration by avoiding the surfaces that crack under his feet. After about 15 minutes of exploring the top floors, Chris goes down into the basement, which is arguably the most deteriorated part of the school.
Yeah, that looks like, you can tell that looks like it needs a lot of work. That's going to take a lot of money. And that's the thing as well, it's like, it's a shame, but the thing is, when you look at the cost financially, sometimes you think, just fuck it, just can French, but I never just said that after saying, like, you know, words like bastard and stuff like that, but it's those things, and it's weighing the pros and cons of these projects. Do I gut the building out and put in a new set of floorboards? Does it need a new roof? How's that collectively going to cost? Because then, I don't mean, even though my dad was a builder, bless his soul, but I don't know much about building itself and construction, but I mean he would. But it's usually, if you're working with what you got there, if there's a lot of decay, I would say probably the floorboards, as a guess, floorboards and the roof potentially you might need to replace. If the walls themselves, just the brickwork, because brickwork, it could look tattered and it could look crap, but I was thinking, but if it still looks, if it's still got some strength to it, it's still got, you know, you can use it, then that's all right. It's just the rest of it needs work. But it depends. But like I said, I mean, well, just going off by people who buy houses and do them up, like was it Under the Hammer, programs like Under the Hammer, where it's like sometimes you go, can I renovate this house, or if the cost is too much, it might cost cheaper to just use the land it's on, strip it, you know, bring it all down and put a new building all together there, if that makes sense.
As he explores the dark rooms, he finds some indications that other people could be living there. Interestingly, he also finds what appears to be a boiler room that's been flooded with water.
Oh man.
At around the 30-minute mark, a loud banging noise can be heard coming from one of the rooms, and it becomes very clear that Chris is not alone. As he steps into one of the classrooms, he finds a very eerie message written on the chalkboard, which reads, "Don't explore alone," as well as a paper sign on the door that reads, "Keep out." Despite the clear warnings, he goes inside, only to find more signs that somebody's living there. This is where Chris's visit to Robert Fulton Elementary takes a very chilling turn.
Oh fuck, okay. I've seen this in another video, another reaction or two. And I did nearly shit a brick, because you'll see. Woo! Jump scare.